Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Claire Zetkin. It is an honor to be here today. I have something very important to talk about: women's rights. A life of inequality is a life that should not be lived. Every woman of every social class deserves the same rights as men do. I was born July 5th, 1857 in Werderau, Germany. I am the oldest of three to my mother and father. My mother, Josephine, was an active women's rights advocate and educator. When I was 15, my family moved to Leipzig, where I began attending Schmidt and Otto von Steuber's Institute. While I was studying there, I began attending Leipzig Women Education Society and the National Association of German Women's meetings. I read socialist newspapers and books. This is where I developed my belief and basis for my role as a feminist and a socialist. In 1878, I became friends with some Russian students who introduced me to the German Social Democratic Party, or the SDP. I met Osip Zetkin, who became a mentor of mine. He introduced me to new ideas. I then separated from my family and traveled to Russia to learn more about Marxist groups. Once I returned to Germany, I was eager to join the SDP, but a law stated that women could not join political parties. So I then became an activist and supporter of the SDP. When the anti-socialist law was passed in Germany later that year, I went to live in Austria as a tutor. A few years later, I traveled to Paris and reunited with Osip. We never got married, but I took his last name, and we had 2 sons. Once in Paris, I began to further my involvement in feminist and socialist politics. Unfortunately, I contracted tuberculosis and had to return to Leipzig to be nursed by my family. While there, I gave my first speech about women's rights. I recovered and went back to Paris to care for Osip, who had spinal tuberculosis. Sadly, he died in early 1889. All my grief went into my work as a political feminist. I worked all during World War I as a socialist feminist and as part of the socialist movement. I attended and spoke at the Second International Congress in Paris for the working women of Berlin. For the next 30 years of my life, I went back to Germany and worked as a part of the SDP. I wrote a women's journal about spreading socialism through women of all classes. I became the first woman in the SDP and then later part of the German Communist Party. For most of my life, I was not allowed to join these political parties, not because of the content of my ideas, but merely because of my gender. I represent women everywhere who are not being represented and are being criticized for who they are. It should matter to all that things are not yet equal. Opportunities are being missed and chances are not being taken. All throughout the world, women are still not able to speak up for what they believe in. They are unable to take action and pursue their dreams. Women are just as important as men in all ways of life, and that should be clear to everyone. Thank you.